Hey everybody, how's it going? As you noticed, I look terrible right now. I'm tired, I'm laid back, my camera's in a completely different position. I've been working my ass off. Thank God that some fucking semblance of the economy is sort of getting better because I have a job now. A job that has me working the graveyard fucking shift. But I'm making money. Not great money, but, better than some bum. So I'm just trying to get this damn thing done because it's been written now, oh god, for like 3 days, and I just haven't had a goddamn minute to fucking dictate it into the camera. Now I do. But I'm not going to be any more attentive than I am right now. So you're just going to have to deal with the fact that I'm not making eye contact. But I'm still engaged. Anywho, so this is my part 3 of Atlas Shrugged review. So let me see if I can do this, and hopefully it makes some decent semblance of sense for you. So, the third part of this book starts with Dagny surviving the crash that I had mentioned in the last part. She lands in Galt's Gulch, aka Atlantis, as it's nicknamed. A valley in the... I think it's the Rocky Mountain area. They seem to be vague about it. Either that or they mentioned it once and I missed it, because the book's so darn thick. It's like War and Peace meets the Bible. uh, but but it's very secluded, and it's actually a very advanced society. Dagny finally meets John Galt, like proper, and discovers that he is the maker of the motor that she has been hunting. And the reader at this point has kind of been suspecting that, just the way it's portrayed. This is all spoiler, so stop listening now if you are truly going to read this damn book, and then read my review later and whatever. So the first 2 chapters are great. They're entirely dedicated to Atlantis, an example of Rand's perfect small government society, ruled by common law and upheld by very small courts. There are no limits on personal development whatsoever. Dagny finds that all of the missing industrialists of America are here, living off the land and their own innovation. As a chapter unveils itself, I couldn't help but laugh. Galt's Gulch is a co-op. The same thing the hippies out west are trying to do, to have an independent community where it has its own commerce exchange, and everybody's farming, and everybody's supporting each other. Huh, isn't that funny? We found a place where some anti-corporate hippie can believe in capitalism. I love it. Anyway, so listen, if you've been thinking about starting a co-op, at the very least, try reading chapters 1 and 2 of part 3. At the very least. You'll find it really cool. I meet people all the time that criticize Ayn Rand and criticize this book, and guess what? They never really get past part 1 at all. They give up. It's too hard. It's like they got in the ring with Mike Tyson, and after the first round, they got one black eye and they said, "I'm out." It's ridiculous. Put up a fight, man. Challenge your goddamn brain, because this book is fucking brilliant. All right? It's not the end-all be-all, as I keep saying. It's perfect for the left hemisphere of the brain, but just the left hemisphere. But like I said, man, humans are 3 parts: left brain, right brain, and heart. All right? We just have to put the others together, and they're a lot more abstract. Believe me, the right brain is not easy to understand, and the heart is not meant to be understood. Anywho, everyone in Galt's Gulch has a home that they built themselves. The economy is internalized. All wealth is held in gold as the utility of exchange. It's not like somebody just sits on a pile of gold and says, "I'm rich." No, it ain't like that. But they use gold as their standard of wealth, and something that they also understand that when the world fucking collapses, which they know it's going to, gold will be something that's going to have value again. And everyone has basically 2 jobs. This isn't because there's a law that says you need 2 jobs. It's just the way the system works, and it's part of how John Galt has selectively chosen which industrialists have the moral backbone to be part of a strong society, to make Galt's Gulch work, as far as, at least as far as its core economy is concerned. So they have the job that contributes to the Gulch, such as farming, or something like that, which they take care of themselves, and they add something like, one guy's, he's interested in growing wheat, and the other one, he may be um, I don't know, he may be like doing construction, building houses or whatever. And then the other one is their personal endeavors, which is, the whole point of the book is man's mind. So, the things that made them great, the things that made them of value to society in the first place, such as Francisco d'Anconio's ability, his ability to mine copper, how he runs a mining operation, because they have a small copper mine in there that he works. He's there, um, you know. So let's see, or there's a couple things. I'm getting there. Let me just keep to the script for the moment. Because the economy is entirely based on its own insular system, Dagny, who has some form of good wealth in America, is practically penniless in Atlantis. She has nothing that she can offer them. She literally has nothing but her. This juxtaposition is not an indictment of her, it's just of the system that she serves. Just like, if some nation sat there and, told America, listen, your dollar means nothing to me. You give me some commodity that you actually have. Isn't that interesting? And what's going on right now in Asia? Wow, they're trading in yen. They're trading in oil and gold. They're getting off the dollar. And guess what? There ain't a damn thing we can do about it with our wonderful super navy that Americans have seen the commercials for, where 100% of the water is covered because 75% is traded, and yada, yada, yada. No, it's not entirely true. We don't control the Strait of Hormuz, otherwise we wouldn't have to be dealing with Iran, which we should not even need to deal with Iran, because Iran has no interest in being hostile towards us, other than in self-defense, which we've been trying to shove down their throats and then make it look like an act of aggression, which we're not believing the propaganda, so whatever. I don't think they're getting their war. And that's something that I'll get into in another video, which is the other reason why I'm just dying to get this out of the way. I've got some juicy things on my mind, and I just had to get through this hurdle, excuse me. So, Dagny finds her absolute favorite artist here as well, a concert writer named Richard Haley. Throughout the first 2 parts of the series, she'd always been talking about him. And I really appreciated that Rand put this in here, because there isn't a hell of a lot she does in the book that talks about the arts, because a lot of it is the more concrete things we understand in society that she's talking about, such as infrastructure, and technological, new inventions, and things like that, and what the state has a right to, etc., etc. But here, as a musician myself, I'm honored that she understands that, the value that the art has in and of itself, and she uses that through the expression of this fictitious character named Richard Haley, who they never tell you exactly what kind of musician he is. I have a feeling that he does big band music. That's the impression I get. Something kind of on the jazzy side. So he had written 4 concertos in the public before he disappeared, but Dagny, throughout the other books, had kept hearing this 5th one. However, the 5th one technically does not exist, and only really knew it as his because she recognized his sound, the way any fan who knows the sound of their artist. If Slayer makes a new album next week, even before Tom starts singing, I know the sound. I know what Kerry King's guitar is like and all that shit. So like I can sit there, ooh, is this new Slayer? And then Tom starts singing, then I'm sure it's new Slayer. And I think with Richard Haley, I don't even think there's singing going on. I think it's mostly instrumental. So that's entirely based on his art. And it's like it's knowing his signature. It's knowing his fingerprint. It's his mark on culture. Um, so she learns that the fifth was leaked to the public but never released. It was written there in Atlantis. And, and it's and he had written other works as well, and he refuses to release them until the world can appreciate it and everything else about it. Just like the reason why the other industrialists are there is because the world doesn't appreciate them. So we got a guy who's even holding back his art form. And I suppose there's some level of truth to that, because you know what? Downloading music's gonna happen, and it's a good way to think about the social commentary of the torrent and Napster style iTunes kind of generation we live in, where you don't have to really buy music anymore. Musicians are not going to care if you actually steal their work. We're all very happy that you love what we hear, and we understand that you're broke and the state is screwing you over because everything's expensive and taxes are keeping you from buying our album. So we're sympathetic on a certain level, but at the same time we're trying to find new ways to make money, and it keeps getting harder and harder to fucking do because it becomes less and less money, or that money becomes more and more worthless. And part of that is protecting our art. The last band I was in, for sure, was very careful about what it released on the internet. We had certain tracks that were promotional that you only got when you bought the physical copy of the CD versus downloading it on iTunes or something. That's all really important stuff, because we still are trying to make money. It's one thing if you're stealing a dime from Metallica, who's signed on fucking, I don't know what label they're on now. I think they're still on Elektra. Because they're making so much money from everything other than album sales that it doesn't matter. They're like the top-rated live act in the world. They sell ass loads of T-shirts, and they've got merchandise, and they're a revenue, they're a cash cow. All right, so don't fucking worry. That's why everybody turned on Metallica, because they're being greedy fucking bastards. It's because it's like. Yeah, okay, fine. You want to be all fucking, Ayn Rand about your music or whatever, that's fine. But you're also assisting these stupid fucking record labels who none of us give a fuck about, because they do way more than distribute, and then they fucking leech you for every dollar you got. It's whatever. Let me get back to Ayn Rand here. So, Galt's Gulch is also a place where science is free to explore itself. John Galt uses all his inventions there, including a cloak shield to hide the valley and the mountains, as well as other industrialists free to explore their most advanced ways they can master their trade, such as oil, agriculture, construction. Dagny finds Francisco d'Anconio with his new mining operation there, as I mentioned before. But the funny thing is that it's being operated by Oxcar. He's got it was like oxes or horses pulling the mine carts, as opposed to having a mining track system. So Dagny is Dagny. And I explained this before in the book 2 review, with her being away, but she couldn't stop thinking about the trains. So her mind directly goes to a way to make the tracks work in a way that's feasible, because the only reason why he hadn't put down tracks is because the mining operation wasn't big enough. She had a way of doing it where it would be big enough with room for expansion, the whole 9 yards. She's sitting there, she's starting to draw and everything else. And she then realizes that it doesn't even matter, for she's not yet part of their world. So she kind of gets frustrated. She puts down her notes or whatever, because that doesn't work yet for her. She's, she hasn't become a part of Galt's Gulch and that community, and she doesn't know if she wants to yet, because this is a period for her of trying to figure that out. Which was part of John Galt's plan, giving her the option to be there or to go back to the real world. But he says that ultimately he wants her there, even if she goes back to the real world. So, after Dagny's wounds had healed from the plane crash, it was time for her to return to the rest of the world. She spent, I think it was about 2 weeks, if I recall correctly, in Galt's Gulch. And in that time, America continued its rapid decline. When she gets back there, the infrastructure was beginning to collapse because their economies were no longer being supported by the other economies that needed them, such as the relationship between the railroads and food, because the cities could not afford them. Without those willing to be exploited to fix these problems, the system remained broken. Even Taggart Rails was falling apart with or without Dagny's brother undermining the operation for the state. Eventually, the government was prepared to give a public statement to calm down all these hunger strikes that are starting to arise and all the civil unrest, with final measures to completely socialize the economy. The government made the greatest deal of the time and date of the broadcast in a nationwide campaign of the announcement. So they'd have like things like blimps in the air saying, August 15th, 7 p.m. We will speak to the nation and talk about the state of the nation, kind of like a big super State of the Union address. When the day finally comes, the anticipation is palpable. The moment the transmission goes live, however, it is hijacked. This part is really cool. The signal is overridden by one of Galt's systems. He uses some of his secret super technology to basically cut off the signal from where the statists were supposed to be giving their comments. And this was on a radio system, so you couldn't see him, but only hear his voice. He didn't mask his voice. And he spoke. And so Galt's voice comes on and commences what is essentially an entire chapter's monologue about small government and free economy, as well as the celebration of the individual, so on and so forth. It's this uber like libertarian. You should read that whole chapter everywhere you go. Like, if you want to make a stump speech, if you're like a Republican running for office on a libertarian principle, or if you're just a libertarian, take some excerpts out of this fucking speech because after you're done reading it, it's too long for our unfortunate attention spans today. Even if you're a really boring, droll, traditionalist, but there's a lot of juice in there. There's a lot of arguments. It's a lot of, like, America, remember who you were. That's very much what it is. It's Galt's last plea for Americans to go back to a better system, kind of like what Ron Paul's doing now, saving us before the end. So, in the storyline, the story time, the characters tell us the speech lasted 4 hours. So that one chapter worth of reading is about 4 hours in the storyline time period passing. So this speech becomes interpreted by the state as Galt is to be the savior of America. A nationwide manhunt is put out for his whereabouts, which was just a nice way of saying a manhunt for a fugitive, because they really just didn't want Galt out there free, and they just really want to exploit him. So they eventually catch him through Dagny. Over the course of years, the story unfolds. Her love goes from Hank to John, just to express that there's this relationship thing going on. I just didn't mention it much because it's not that relevant to the core story. Galt considers the high price for Dagny's abilities to come back to Atlantis, and chose to pay it through coming out and exposing himself to be captured, to go through coercion, and also torture. And I'm going to get into that and explain all that momentarily. he would refuse to cooperate with the government and told Dagny told Dagny to protect her. She must be his biggest enemy. The plan works. Eventually, they don't suspect that they are in cahoots or anything like that. Eventually, in desperation, as the last of the city's infrastructure and livability is blacking out, Galt is taken to a government facility for the torture I mentioned. Rand uses this moment for great irony. They invented a special kind of electroshock torture machine designed to stress the heart without causing it to go into arrest. This device is incredibly sophisticated, however, and the engineers that built it have long left the service of the system. During this persuasion of Galt, he goes through massive amounts of stress and pain as they make his heart race, and they had him set up to a heart monitor so they can understand that and know when to pause so they don't kill him. And they're hoping to break him to willingly join the system and to solve all their problems. Which, even if he wanted to, he couldn't, because it's just the nature of the beast to not be a solution. And it's something that the world had to learn the hard way, and Galt had the courage to make the sacrifice. It's kind of a weird twist on on the Christ figure. But it's not. That's just my personal assessment. Just because we're talking about this hero who's more of a legend in the minds of Americans, and then he gets captured by the great empire, like Jesus got captured by the Romans and then tortured, killed, the whole 9 yards, and then in our salvation, and that's sort of the idea. But they didn't want to make some sort of martyr out of him either. So then the machine breaks down. This is the irony. The operator has no damn clue how to fix it. He only knows how to use it, because he's just an operator. He's not really the engineer. But Galt knows, because this kind of thing is child's play for him. Galt tells them how to fix it. He starts explaining. And then this infuriates our villainous character. I forget his name. It might have been Mooch, Wesley Mooch or something like that. He's one of the villains. I don't remember which one was behind the operator giving him the orders. Because the only thing that John Galt was helping, let's just say it was Mooch do, was to prolong his own torture in spite of him. So I just thought that was hysterical, because that's what basically ends the torture, because it just pisses him off that it just went to that, as opposed to him saying, okay, fine, I'll fix the economy. So shortly after this event, Dagny, Hank, and Francisco stage a rescue operation. This is basically the big finale. They break into the facility and outsmart all the guards, if not beat them in a fight. There wasn't too much fighting, because Rand wanted to make a big point about how they use their minds in a way where they could take out government guards just by basically confusing them with the bureaucratic red tape they themselves must deal with. It's quite funny. Read the book. Please, just read the damn book. And they reach Galt and set him free. They make a break for it on one of Galt's planes that was at a nearby airfield. This is based on the 1950s. Things aren't as well tracked. Small minor airfield, etc., etc. There's no loophole here when you understand that. So just getting that out of the way. It's not bad writing, I promise. Meanwhile, America falls, finally. Man is reduced to oil lamps and horse and carriage. The trains Dagny loved so much just shut down. Just couldn't work. Too many problems, not enough systems, not enough electricity. The lights in New York City, they go dark. As John's plane flies into the sunset, he looks at his friends and declares, now we can rebuild. Now, John Galt and all the industrialists are prepared, now that America's fallen and the government's gone, and people don't even have anything anymore, to come out and to put the Galt's Gulch system into play nationwide, because they were able to wait it out long enough through the brilliance of their minds. So, After Atlas had been thoroughly shrugged, and no one had the muscle to stand in the way of progress, the great minds of America decided to come back to the world to force it, to forge it in their image, and to be a better place for all mankind. I know I basically just paraphrased myself, but I went off script and then I went back on script just now. I'm tired, like I said. We're almost done. This is my interpretation of the major bullet points of Atlas Shrugged. Some of my comments were postulation and opinion, and I left out a lot of small details while trying my hardest to give you the main story for the sake of piquing your interest into this heavy reading. Please leave feedback below in comments, and if you haven't read the book thoroughly, please refrain from trolling, because I am not trying to say this story is the only solution to our problems, but I do believe it is a large part of it. Never throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's it. Thank you so much, and hopefully my next video will come pretty soon. I might even just be more off the cuff about it, because I hate the fact that it's just taken so long, and this is a half an hour long video, and the other ones are like, I think, 15 minutes. Alright, whatever. I'm tired. I'll catch you guys later.